Hello, everyone. Sorry, just takes a bit of time. Where do I start? Hello. Good evening, good morning, good day. Photography work. Burrito bowl. Love a good burrito bowl, except sometimes it makes you feel a bit bad the next day. Just trying to do an application right now. Yeah, well, good luck with that now. Yes, I'm actually here. I do exist. Hello. Did I get a haircut? No, clearly my hair is just different and horrible. I don't know. My hairline is still stabilized, but it's not in a good place. But that's life. It's just styled differently. Yeah, I don't know. It has a mind of its own. Where am I today? I am at my home in Indianapolis. As you can see, my little Ferrari thing is on the floor. My helmets, I've got my Alpha one over there. That was quite a nice one. My first Junkos helmet, which actually was my F2 helmet. No. That's last year's one. Actually, my F2 helmet's over on the floor. Oh, thank you, Harry. Thanks for the sub. Welcome back. Okay, you're still at work, not on audio, so you can't even hear me, so no problem. How are the preparations for Texas? Well, I just sit there and I envision turning left. You sit like this. Like that. Thoughts on Clem's Wine Corner, Bottle 8. No offense, Clem, I haven't listened to a single one of them. Are they entertaining? Are they interesting? I heard it's a bit off the rails, but that's not my thing. Yeah, the only time you turn right is in a pit stop. That's the time where you need to go right, and it doesn't turn right very easily. So, thank you for listening to my Nailing the Apex podcast. Well, it's not my podcast; it's their podcast. But yeah, it was entertaining. I do like doing stuff like that. Yes, Clem has some very weird opinions. I did realise that, but weird opinions create weird people, which is exciting. If everyone was just the same, it'd be a bit boring. Yeah. Well, yeah, I know you guys complained that I didn't do much streaming. Marcus is in the UK still. I think he should be coming out for Texas. I don't know. He has a mind of his own. But. Oh, welcome everyone who's just joined. Yes, so we haven't done any podcasts lately. So once he gets back out here, we'll do something. If it's before Texas, if not, it's after Texas. But then I'm going to the UK and he's going to be out here. So yeah, that's going to be quite difficult actually. Maybe we'll do a Zoom one. Is it easier to prepare for races now that you have a teammate? In general, no. I think Texas should be a bit easier because obviously he did a test there. I was there. We've got the data from it. That should be helpful. But at other places, not really. You kind of have to approach everything in a similar way. I think Indy 500 should be a lot better though. I heard this is a better Twitch chat. I mean, it should be quite chill. I don't know who you're comparing to. Do I watch Mr. Futrell's chat at all? No, I have not seen him or heard from him in a long time. Nice guy though. Excellent. I did a lot of interviews actually in the last couple of days, so there should be a few coming out. I think there's one with Sky Sports IndyCar as well soon. I don't know if I was allowed to say that, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Have I been to Indy Zoo yet? No, I have not. That is on my bucket list plan or whatever, but it's a bit boring to go on your own. Did I have lunch already? Yes, I had a sweet potato salad, but it got a bit too sweet, so I couldn't finish it. Do I get any physical injuries from just driving IndyCar or not at all? I broke my hand last year in the Indy 500 from a crash. so I had to miss a race. But otherwise, no. I mean, you get a couple of neck problems and I guess back problems. Iowa, I think, was quite tough for everyone because we did a Saturday race and a Sunday race. It was super hot. I think a lot of people had heat exhaustion and dehydration. So yeah, it's not easy, but I don't think anyone has any lasting physical injuries. Um, but yeah, like back problems in terms of stiffness. Like I definitely damaged my back from when I was karting as a young kid because that's just not great for your back at all. But I have survived, so I will be good. Um, I've just won the F2 championship in my new F1 2020 driver career. Congratulations. Well done. To myself, I guess. Myself did a better job than myself. Yeah. How am I feeling today? I'm doing good. Life is good, I guess, you know. No complaints. Yeah, I went to the same school as, well, actually, they all followed me to school, but Oscar Piastri, Jehan Darivala, Clement Novalak, James Paul, Devlin Di Francesco. I think there's one more, potentially. Trying to think. Maybe. Um, is there anything I miss living in Europe about living in Europe? Home and food. I like the food in Italy. It's good. My name's not Benjamin. Well, actually, my middle name is, but yeah, still. Hot minute since I caught a stream. Yeah, hot couple of months probably. Trendsetter era. What did I do? Oh yeah. I am ready to turn left. I am ready. I think. I'm not ready until I actually drive the car, but you know, you're pretty ready anyway. How are DRS and push to pass different when you're overtaking? Is one faster than the other? Push to pass works very well at low gears because effectively the horsepower difference makes quite a big difference in terms of the torque that you have. Sorry, horsepower difference, torque difference. So you kind of pick up earlier than DRS. DRS is obviously only working in 2 or 3 zones, so you try and just do your overtakes in those zones, whereas push to pass you can use at any point and try and catch people out. Obviously everyone has access to it, so they can use it at any time. So it's a bit more complicated. Yeah, but I like push to pass because it requires a bit more strategic racing. My friend is going to Nashville because he lives there and invited me, but I can't afford to fly out from England, so maybe next year. I do apologise. That is the negative of racing only in the US. But I do not make the decisions, unfortunately. And as much as I'd love to invite you out here, I do not have the facilities for that, big man. It's like a whole F2 gang in that school. Yeah, it was. My biggest injury in my racing career was probably the hand. I didn't really do much else, touch wood, so far. Are we getting a side pod for Australia? I don't think so. Maybe afterwards. Yeah. Can we get something for that wall? No, because it's a very big wall, as you can see. So it'd just be a bit like, and it goes even a bit further than that. So it'd just be a bit non-space filling or whatever. I don't know. Come on, back to center. Quality predictions for Australia F1 is gonna be Red Bull, and then probably Alonso again. Although the Ferraris are not bad on pace on quali, so maybe one of them. What race would you want to be my first Indy win? I mean the Indy 500, but apart from that, I don't know. Iowa would be quite cool. I like that. Yeah, maybe the black eye was my biggest injury. So emotionally damaging. Yeah, Iowa would be cool, or Long Beach would be cool, but I don't think we have an amazing car there. Have they adjusted the aero package for Texas this season? Texas and Indy. Yeah, it's got some slight adjustments with the floor. Should get us a bit closer together. Welcome to those who have just followed and joined. So yeah, it should be a bit closer. But it's not. It's not going to be easy. Uh, yeah, we're going to try and rubber the higher line in because they've got this NASCAR special stuff which doesn't give us any grip. Yeah, handbrake. I mean, I like snapped it. But I drove a week and a half later in Road America. So yeah, it was quite crazy with a broken hand. And every curb kind of hurt, but you know, YOLO. And I still finished 11th, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, I think they gave me painkillers on the Sunday of the 500 when I broke it, but it wasn't that bad in terms of the pain. And I did the race at Road America without painkillers, but then after the race, I had to get some because it was hurting so bad after I did that race. It's so mad that you can go to pretty much all the IndyCar races for less than a weekend ticket to Silverstone. Yeah, I mean that's the way F1's gone. It's a shame. It's a shame because it kind of takes the inclusivity of it all away on the F1 side because I think everyone should be, sharing that environment. Thank you, Yasmin, for the sub, by the way. Welcome. But yeah, I mean, I'm not in charge of it, and it's become so exclusive now that that's the way it is. I hope Oscar does as well. What do you think about Ollie Behrman's performance in F2 so far? I think he's been quick. Jeddah was definitely quicker, but it's only 2 races so far. I think, the team as a package need to step it up. As a rookie, there's like lots to learn, so some mistakes are going to happen, I guess. But yeah, he looks quick. Why are most Indy races in the Midwest? I don't know. I don't decide, but I think there are some good tracks there as well, keeping it interesting. Do I mind the gap between race weekends, or you prefer it this way? I mean, it's a bit spread out now, but like as soon as we do after Long Beach, we're every week, and whether it's testing or something, we are just going for it. So it's pretty special in that sense. I think we got 10 out of 11 weeks in a row of driving around the Indy 500. My height is 178 or 179 last time I checked. 5'10", pretty standard, I guess. Is there more connection now between Formula Feeder Series and IndyCar right now compared to a few years ago? I mean, there's more eyes on it from both sides, but I think it's still, it doesn't matter. Lots of people were asking me about it, but you have to commit to it. That's the thing. You have to commit, and that's the tough part of getting people to do. How many cowboy hats is Hunkos bringing to Texas? I don't know, a few probably. They didn't fit me. They were too big for my head. Will you be dropping driver cards? Hunkos have my driver card, so you can send an envelope with some postage money in there for them to send it back, and or request on that side. I don't know how it exactly works, but yeah, they're in charge of all of that, because if I had to do it, you'll get them in about 2 years, which is no insult to you guys. It's just it's not my thing. I drive cars. I'm not good at that other stuff. I don't have anyone to do it for me, so I just was like, you guys have to do it. I'm not taking charge of that. How do I like living in Indianapolis? Have you found a British market yet? No, but there's a lot of Brits here because of IndyCar in some ways. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, in the winter, it's honestly a bit shit. But in the summer, I enjoy it a lot here. It's super nice and very chilled. How short is Marcus? He is shorter than I am. I don't know by how much, but I'm going to say a good 4 centimeters. But it could be more, could be less. I don't know. Actually, I don't think it's less, but he'd argue it's less. But What is the slip angle in F1 racing? I don't know the exact degrees of the slip angle. It depends on the tire and the compound. But slip angle means the, should we say, maximum angle that you can turn the wheel in regards to the tires. Turn the tires at a certain speed before it goes over the grip limit of that tire, the mu of that tire. So, for example, in a high-speed corner, the maximum grip limit of the car for the front tire slip angle might be like 10 degrees of turning, whereas when you come to a slow-speed corner, it might be 90 degrees of turning. And the moment you go 91, 92, 93, 94, you're going to be losing grip. Actually, I can diagram it for you. 1 second. Tech talk with Callum, right? Because, you know, clearly some people think I'm stupid, but that's not the case all the time. Anyway. Right. Hang on. I'm going to have to catch up with these, so bear with me a second. So, okay, we have, it's going to be, shit, right, let me start again. Okay. Oh, fuck. Sorry. It's not going well. I'm not good at drawing straight lines, so bear with me. Okay, my makeshift ruler. Yeah, well, education with Callum requires some explicit words for deepest learning. Okay, alright, so what we're going to have here is okay, braking. Excel. Right and left. Okay. So, people, here is my diagram, right? There we go. Braking, left, right, left, acceleration. Okay? So, if we imagine that each line either side of the 0 point, we'll make that 0, is 100%. So, what we can do is we can then draw a circle. I'm not good at drawing circles either, but we'll try. And there we go. Oh, that's a very small circle. Okay. Right. Anyway, you can bear with me on this one. No, that's not gonna work. Excellent. Right, okay, so it's going to be a bit smaller than the actual lines go to, but that's because I'm trying to do it neatly for you guys, but you'll get my point anyway. So, yeah, that's about right. Okay, so if we imagine that that is 100%, 100%, you get my point, right. So, hang on, no, I'm having that there is 100%, that there is 100% on that line. Right. So this is called the grip circle. So in the braking zone, when you're fully straight and no turning, right, no right left, you can maximize your braking. You get 100% of the grip from the tire. As soon as you start to turn, you see that you now no longer have, actually, hang on, wait. So, yeah, if you try and do, should we say, 10 degrees of turning out of the maximum of, or half the maximum allowed turning point, right? You will then hit this line, which is here. Hang on. So that, say that you're trying to turn right, you can only use that much grip within this circle at this point. As soon as you try and turn over with too much braking, you understand? You go over this grip circle. You go over this line, and that means you have locked up. Exactly. That is what this grip circle means. Yeah. So that technically partly relates to the slip angle of the tire. So the more you turn, the less allotted other usage you have. So for example, for you to in the middle of the corner, you need to use maximum turning. You have to use 100% of your right hand side turning. That means you cannot be braking, so you cannot be decelerating, and you cannot be accelerating. So I'm getting confused with this opposites. But for you to use 100% of your right hand side grip to be able to turn 100%, you have to not be braking and not be accelerating, not decelerating or accelerating. And the same way to get 100% of your traction, you have to not be turning. So you get my point here, right? So then we go on to the slip angle of the tire, which this is a more rough diagram of it. But hang on, how do I explain this? Because so you're turning, and then okay, I got it. So, okay, yep. You zoned out. Okay, that's not my problem. No offense. Okay, right, excellent. Okay, and that is the middle of the corner. Okay, so we're going to do this line here. Okay, right. So, entry, mid, exit. Yeah. Okay, so here, this here, I'm gonna put my eye out, is the entry of the corner, the mid of the corner, and the exit in terms of the steering. This is a very nice steering trace. If you had this nice steering trace, you'd be great. But it's never that nice, or it's actually, to be fair, it's not what it should be. It's a bit more like but the point is, this is related to your speed. So this is speed, this is turning, whatever. This is a rough thing, but effectively you want your steering to be in line with the actual grip that you have. So this would be perfect, right? But it never ends up being like that. So sometimes, right, you have to approach the corner a bit differently. So you've gone in a little bit hard. You can't do your turning in the same way you want to. So you end up maybe approaching the steering a bit like this. Okay, so that's your entry phase, and then you realize that you need to turn the car more. Okay. So at this point, you're going to be like, I need to put some more wheel angle in because I haven't turned the car as much. So you end up going over the slip angle, which if you see at this point, so which you cannot do at the same speed as this one. You would have to slow down the car more to be able to do that, because there is not enough grip to do it. So you'd have to go a couple of kilometers an hour slower into the corner at this point. But at this point, you might be going faster, so you gained a little bit of time on the entry here, but you're going to lose time in the mid to exit here, and then hopefully get a similar exit. But yeah, that's to do with the slip angle. I mean, it's not the best explanation, but it gives you a little bit of an idea of the basic physics behind it. Anyway, now I've got to catch up with all this stuff as I've just been talking a load of shite. Right, okay. Did your opinion on ovals change once you drove there? Yeah, I love the short ovals. I don't like the speedways as much as the short ovals, but Still fun. Okay. No, I didn't freehand those. That was my point. It's like, you know, okay, I guess. So when making these decisions while driving at 200 miles an hour, you don't make these decisions. It's like natural for you. You turn in and you know, like, for the speed that you're going, for the sound, for the gear, everything is like natural. You don't have to think about this, but that's good to explain to someone who's new to it, to maybe understands it from a more physics side than an actual driving side. But that's the basics of the physics side. And maybe gives you an understanding as to why, when you turn more, actually sometimes you lose grip with the front. So sometimes turning less and being smoother with it in a go-kart, for example, is better than going and understeering. But it depends on the car and the car. Like, there's a video of my pole in the wet in F2 at Hungary, and I was just doing this with the steering in the middle of the corner. And that's because the car was super unpredictable in the middle of the corner if I actually stayed under the slip angle. So I went over it, and the F2 car does quite well over the slip angle. It still rotates quite well. And I'd go over the slip angle by forcing it and understeering around until the car comes around, and then I could come back with it. So yeah. So when drivers say the tyres are bad for combined, it means the grip is only there for either brake, acceleration, or steering. Is the Pirelli bad for that? It depends on some cars, yes, some cars no. I mean, the best, for example, of exploiting a combined grip tyre was the old F3, because you would lean on it quite a lot. And welcome to people who have followed recently. It would mean, like, you go into a high speed, for example, and it can happen on the low speed as well, but you don't have as much load on the tyre on a low speed because there's not as much downforce and the speed's lower. But high speed, you go in and, like with the old F3, you'd be able to balance on the throttle and the brake to keep the car like neutral. And if you pitched the car too much, it would lose. So with the Hankook, you were able to lean on it a lot. The sidewall was quite stiff but forgiving in a certain sense, and you would be able to overlap and get the tyre to do many things at once. You get to the Pirelli, it had more peak grip, but you kind of had to go in quite fast, and then in the middle of the corner, to get it to rotate, you had to come off of everything to get it to rotate, and then you had to be more aggressive on the throttle. If you tried to hold on to the throttle, maybe it would overheat the tyre slightly, and it couldn't do two things at once, so you had to isolate everything. Or if we take a slower speed corner, you had to do the braking on its own, like the F2, you had to really brake straight, and then you almost had to be off of everything and then turn. And then wait for the car to rotate, and as soon as you're close to being straight, you're on the gas. Whereas maybe with a super soft tyre or something, it's a bit different. You can brake later, roll off the brakes while you're still turning, but not jumping off the brakes, you're rolling off the brakes. And as soon as the car starts to rotate, you can pick up the throttle. That's like a tyre that you can combine. Excellent. Did you see that Marcus thought Shakespeare's name was Michael? I did. That was very unimpressive, but highly uneducated. Yeah, bless him. I think I'll send him a Shakespeare book on his birthday. How do drivers utilize weight transfer to go faster? I mean, we can play a lot with weight distribution in the car, so that can be affected of your turn-in, your mid-corner rotation and all of that, so you can use that as your advantage. But it depends on the car, because when they added these halos, the weight transfer was slower, so for the high speed you had to anticipate the turn-in quite a bit before the car actually settled down, so you'd have to turn 5-10 meters earlier in all the corners. Before the halo, you could just go and it would completely go in, but it really depends on the car. You have to find the ideal thing for that car, in your driving style, in other people's driving styles. But it's not like there's probably a couple of different ways you can use it, but normally there's a specific way that's best, and you have to discover it yourself. But some people can make it work in different ways, and even teams have different setups, so it's not as simple as just making it work. Like, you have to make it work, but it's not that simple. And by this stage, everyone's styles are kind of natural to them, so having to adjust your style to something different is quite tough. So explain tire strategies. Well, that depends on the tires, the length of the race, the pit stops, all of this sort of stuff. But yeah, if you've got a soft tire that's gonna lose its pace in 10 laps and a hard tire that can last 30 laps, you're gonna probably want in the race to end up getting off that soft tire as quick as possible, and transferring onto the harder tire and being consistent on it. But at the same time, then there's like safety car advantages and stuff, and that depends on the series that you're in. So normally what we would do is look at the calculations of like, what is the quickest green flag? So everything being green, what is the quickest strategy on a green flag? And then you look at percentage of safety car risks and what times. This was especially in F2 and F1. And then you would, have plan A, B, C. F2 was very simple in the sense that you either went soft or you started with the hard. And had to make a call within a certain window of laps. And if there was a safety car at a certain point, you either won the race or you got stuffed. It was one of those things. Do I prefer a front or rear limited car? Hello, Ryan. I would have said previous years I prefer a rear limited car. I still like an oversteery car, but when you get into bigger, heavier cars, you need a front limited car. It's just not, you need to be resting on the front. You can't rely on feeling the rear because it creates too much issues. Are there huge differences between downforce and non-downforce cars in driving style? Yeah, with the braking, that changes a lot in how you behave with the brakes. The car starts to slide more with no downforce. You save, in some ways, you save the tyre quite a lot by adding downforce, but also it increases the load through the tyre. So there's that trade-off of it also depends on what type of tyre you have. How decisions are you actually consciously making when driving them, and what's unconscious? It's natural instincts. So these all become your natural instincts. You have to decide which side you're going to go if you're going to do something. Obviously, like with DRS, you plan to set up moves because it makes more sense. With push to pass, you can't try and do a similar thing, but it's never that simple. Sometimes you just have to react off of instinct and muscle memory. So I would say there's not a lot of conscious decisions, or there's not a lot of time to make conscious decisions, but it's a lot of instinct and initiative from past things. That's why there's a lot of common mistakes, because you don't have time to make decisions, and it's either this is going to work or it's not, and you just have to go for it. And sometimes you don't get another opportunity to do it. I'm assuming drivers have to understand the physics side of it too, to be able to go to communicate better with their engineers, because you can't really convey feelings to an engineer as well. No, not necessarily. So I've experienced a lot of different engineers, and some work really well with like driver feedback. So being able to look at video and understand what the car's doing from the video, understand what the car's doing from the way I communicate it. And then there are engineers that can't look at video, can only look at data and understand the car from their point of view, from the data point of view. And there's a mix of it. There's some that can do both. There's some that, have to be either side. But that's what makes things interesting, and you have to understand the people that you're working with and how to get the best out of them. So, I kind of work with two that are a bit different on that side, but I've learned enough to be able to bridge the gap between it and convey to both of them what I'm feeling in the right ways, and then we can have a mutual discussion. Because sometimes there's things in the data that I feel but I can't explain, and it can be explained through data. Sometimes there's things that you can't see in the data but I can feel, and I need to explain to them what I'm feeling and why, and any past changes that we've done or I've done somewhere else that might combat that and help us, and as to why, and normally that all kind of correlates. So yeah, it you don't need to know the physics side of it. There are drivers who are dumb as fuck and can't communicate it. No offense to them, but they're still quick drivers. They still can get things done. But yeah, it's I think it's still important to have an understanding of what you're doing, and what you're feeling, and of course that's built by experience. A lot of guys and girls as well build by experience and listening to other people, listening to their engineers, and self-learning. You have to digest a lot of stuff yourself. I don't think you can go through your whole career being driver coached and someone speaking for you as well. You have to look and understand things as well. How much is different a Formula car and an Indy car? I mean, it's still a Formula car. Formula 2 and IndyCar is a relatively similar chassis, in a certain way in the characteristics of it, but then the IndyCar is slightly heavier, the weight's quite a bit further up, but the tyres you can lean on quite a bit more. F1 is another level, you can't compare to that, but they're all relatively similar in the way they feel, so it's not too different. How would you preserve your tyre while keeping the same lap time? Tyre whisperer and all. It's about minimizing the unnecessary energy through the tyre. So you don't wheel spin. You try and keep always under the limit of the tyre. So you're never wheel spinning. You don't lock the brakes. You're not going over the slip angle. It's very hard to maintain the same lap time, but you're obviously trying to get as close to that. The other thing is like the higher the speed, the higher the energy. So if you can save in a high speed corner, then you're reducing the energy. And because of the speed, the difference between being 5 kilometers per hour slower in a high speed corner in terms of time is actually a lot less than being 5 kilometers an hour slower in a slow speed corner. So because say you're going 50 kilometers an hour and you reduce the speed to 45, that's a 10% difference in speed and time. Whereas at 200 kilometers an hour, if you're going 5 kph slower, it's a lot less than a 10% difference. It's 2.5% difference, I think. I might be wrong. So it's much more efficient to save in a high speed corner. So yeah, that's why. F1 2020, I don't know when. I can't say. There's a most likely twos for screaming males. Okay. Lol. Was nice hearing you talk about the physics of racing. It's really interesting to hear about what goes on behind the scenes, but I'm going to go to sleep now. Good night. I hope you do well. Hope you sleep well. Whatever. I don't know. All the car physics is the only physics I actually like. As soon as my science teacher brings up cars, I'm interested. Well, there you go. There you have a passion. Planes are upside down cars are upside down planes with aero. I don't know. Where would you like to visit in the US that you haven't? I would like to go to the national parks. That would be quite cool. So rent a little RV or something and go around. What part of driving are taught by your engineer and what part are taught by a driving coach? To be fair, for me, a lot of it's just self-taught. Trying to understand what I need to improve and where, and I have a good understanding of just looking at things and knowing what can be done and stuff. Of course, you're never 100% correct, but I feel I can get pretty close. But engineers and driver coaches, I mean, in terms of a certain way, they do a similar thing, but driver coaches have driven the car, engineers are engineering the car. So you get some engineers who can convey the driving side really well. You can get some driver coaches that can convey the engineering side really well. It just depends. This is such an educational stream, so well, I can't speak. Thank you. I've been blabbering a lot. Has your year in GT racing helped you in Indy? Yeah, I think everything kind of helps you in some way, shape, or form for whatever your future is. It's definitely built some things in me and prepared some things. The difference it made if I didn't do it or not, I don't know. I can't really answer that, but it was definitely interesting. Hello, Callum. Which racing format do you prefer as a driver and as a viewer? The F2 Sprint F1, normal F1, or the IndyCar? Look, I personally, I know some people enjoy it, but I personally hate sprint races. I think they're just so, it's like giving a random unfair advantage to someone who finishes 10th in qualifying. Like, what the fuck? Like, if you're racing at Monaco, you cannot. There's no way you pass anyone in a sprint race. You don't have a pit stop. You can't pass. Maybe you make one overtake in the whole race if you're lucky. It's too much of a risk to overtake people. So, sprint race is like a guaranteed win if you start on pole in Monaco and get a decent start, which I don't think is fair. Of course, other places, it allows people to shine and can make time up. But like, I say F2 is a lot better now that you have the sprint race after qualifying, so it's not affected by your race result from the feature race. Like the feature race, that's qualifying into that. You qualify, you do the job, and that starts like that. If you're doing a sprint race, you may as well do a random grid. It's just stupid. But I know some people like it. Sprint race in F1, I think. It depends what you're going for. If you're going for entertainment and some surprise things, I mean, they don't even do reverse grids. Actually, so yeah, sorry, reverse grids is what I hate. Sprint races is okay. Sprint races without reverse grids is okay. So the way F1 do it, fair enough, creates a bit of drama. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot that they don't do the reverse grids. I'm so used to that. But IndyCar is chaotic. You can't really prepare for the strategy. You can only execute the best way possible that you can. But it's an entertaining race, I have to say. It's pretty entertaining. The F1 format is good, but the issue now is they're just doing one stops all the time. I want the race to go back to like two stops, so you get some really varying strategies, really good strategies. But yeah, one stop is just, I mean, it's so boring. Like being able to do 60 laps on a tire. No one enjoys that. Hello, Marcel. Welcome. Welcome. Wie geht's? Would I ever consider writing a memoir? Maybe not. Maybe I'll write a book about my experiences. I do like FE races in a certain way. They're quite entertaining, but that's the thing with sports. Is it a sport or is it entertaining? Of course, there's a big competition aspect on that side, and I think FE has it, but it's also made for entertainment. So yeah. Random grid sounds fun. Yeah, but like this is the thing. For entertainment, fine, do it. If you're paid professional drivers, you do what you're told in a certain way. Obviously, you can have opinions, but the thing with F3 and F2 is like these are people's careers on the lines. In so much investment is put behind all of that stuff, and you're playing with it because you want a bit of entertainment. The idea of F2 being entertaining instead of being a proper sport that shapes people's careers. I know what I would prefer if I was doing it. And it's entertaining anyway. Well done for applying to college, by the way. F1 should try quali like in Formula E as they have duels, and it would be interesting seeing different drivers end up going against each other. Yes, 100%. I don't know how you do it. If you do it in championship order, or actually, yeah, you do the Group A and Group B, and then who goes up and whatever. Yeah, I can see that happening. It's possible. I think personally their idea of trying one or two things a year makes quite a lot of sense. Um, could I ever race or be in the same team as a sibling? I mean, my sibling is like 12 years younger than me, so I don't know. Interesting. Charles said that he'd never race with Arthur at Ferrari. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's not. It's a very unique situation. I don't think it's ideal for anyone to be competing against their sibling. You want to be trying to do the best for the team, but whatever. I mean, who knows? Do drivers get told off by a coach or team boss for mistakes and crashes? I mean, like, if you're respected, you're allowed maybe one crash where you just go like, that's life. If you do stupid mistakes often, yeah, of course you get told off. Yeah, my sister, she's a very competitive little girl. So yeah, she would, or she'd love to at least. She can try. How different can driving styles be? Say if there's a spectrum of driving style from F1 drivers, are they mostly similar or some drivers' style differ by a lot? Driving styles don't differ massively. I have to say everyone's so finely tuned now that it's quite similar, but the racing styles differ a lot. The aggressiveness, that sort of thing, is quite unique between different people, as you can see. Hamilton versus Verstappen, Charles versus Verstappen. Magnussen is quite strong and aggressive. Sonoda defended from him very well for a while. It's that type of stuff. Do you ever wish Indy didn't just race in America, or do you enjoy not having the sudden drop in time zones? Look, we once we get busy, we just continuously race. I mean, I said earlier that we had like 10 weekends out of 11 where we're driving, or at least 10 weeks out of 11 where we're driving, which is tough on everyone. I think IndyCar is more relaxed than F1 on that aspect because we can turn up slightly later. You can drive to a lot of races, which gives you a bit more recovery time, and it's obviously not. For drivers, it's not a Monday to Friday thing. It's you're like on call in a certain way. You're either doing interviews or whatever. And yeah, it's quite relaxed. I don't have to always wake up at a certain time and all of that. But the traveling side of things is super tiring. I mean, did it with F2. I did it with the F1 reserve stuff. That's not easy. A lot of stuff has to be dedicated to recovery and the right training, the right jet lag recovery. So I don't envy the position they're in. They're super busy. I mean, I know it looks like they live extremely privileged lives and earn all this money and all of that. But if you don't have time to spend it and enjoy with family and friends and all of that, which to be fair, not a lot of them do. Yeah, I don't envy that. So I enjoy Indy for being quite small in America, but I definitely think there is a bit of time where we could do one or two races outside of America. I think the most sense so far would be going down to South America or even Mexico, because it's convenient and within the same time zones. So I'd do it. But yeah, it's you need to build it up. IndyCar back in the day used to be massively big, giving F1 a run for its money, and then there was the split, and that changed things up a bit. So they were doing international races back then. Thank you for the subscription. No worries. I enjoy these things. There's some good questions today. Is there a particular track that is best to go to your first Indy race? Honestly, they're all quite good for their own things. I think Iowa will give quite a good fan experience, and it's a short oval. You probably have no idea what's going on because there's just so much going on during the race, but at least you see those cars doing some great speeds. If you want the raw kind of American style, I would say you go to Road America, go to Mid-Ohio, there's not much around it, but you do it. Long Beach is a cool one to go to. Laguna Seca is great, also a great atmosphere. Yeah. Will there be a Bus Bros side pod crossover this year? I think we'll try to. I haven't discussed it with the Bus Bros, but why not? It makes a bit of sense. I mean, Marcus and I don't have buses, but it can be the Bus Bros and the Busless. Yeah, if Indy could race at one F1 track, what would it be? I'd say Monza. How's life? Life is good. Life is good. No complaints so far. They are in talks for a race in Argentina, I believe. I don't know where they're at with it, but I think it would be quite enticing. Mexico makes a lot of sense for me as well, with Mexico GP. But both, yeah, obviously for Argentina, for the team, for the series, that would be great for Augustine as well. But I think Pato also has a massive fan base, has been in IndyCar for a long time. And if they marketed it well, Mexico City, the track there, I can't remember the specific name of it, but the Mexico GP track, that would be great. I think they get loads of fans. Yeah, welcome to the people who just joined again. Welcome on Twitch. Yeah, kart was global. Kart was what IndyCar technically used to be. What is the favorite track in which you have driven, and which is the one in which you'd like to drive? I think Silverstone, Macau, Suzuka, they're the three that I love. Road America is super nice out here. I would like to drive Singapore. That would be a great event to do. Yeah. Can you ever see a driver strike like the F1 in extreme circumstances in the current era, or are teams too strict? It depends what it's about. I think there are certain things that can't be taken the piss of. So there could be, but I don't see anything right now being a concern. It's just, again, I think if there's a question of safety, if there's a question of money, in some areas, all of that sort of stuff, I could see it happening, but I don't see any reason for it right now, if you know what I mean. Like, there's nothing to complain about right now. Pato's fan base in Mexico would be absolutely mental. Yeah, I think it would. I think it would be great. The individual fan bases that people have, like, in a certain way, Sweden with Marcus and Felix, they have a great fan base. Pato has an amazing fan base in Mexico. Augustine has an amazing fan base in Argentina. Helio has a great fan base in Brazil. It's great. There's a lot of things that could be used out of that, and could be beneficial to both IndyCar and for the local economy in those areas. It makes sense. I mean, yeah, why not? What percentage would you say can simulator replace in real life testing? Do you get 100% out of the simulator as you would get from in real life testing? In F1, yeah, they're on that simulator all day, every day. That is being used all the time, so it's as good as can get. Outside of F1, it's a bit more difficult, but we try and get the biggest benefit we can from it. It's not a question, but Ricardo said that you are an exceptional driver, that you continue to prove that you're a driver that could have been given an F1, or could have been an F1 world champion if you had the opportunity, and he also thanked God for having you in his team. I don't know. I try and do the best job I can. I don't know about F1 world champion. I'd definitely give it a go if I was in the right position. But an F1 driver, I could have been. Most argue I should have been. But at the end of the day, I can't change it. So my attitude is, who cares now? I've just got to do the best job I can. Even if I'm still building up the team and we're not in the fastest position right now, I've got to do the best job I can and prove to people. I think, like, one of the things I wanted to do, if I could, I said this on a podcast I did recently, was go into a smaller team in F1 and show what I could do and make changes to it and be the best driver I could in all aspects outside of the driving. and hopefully would have been well respected for that. But I didn't get that opportunity, but I got that opportunity in Indy, and for the people that pay attention, they know what I'm capable of, what I've done, what I continue to do. Ricardo is one of those, and I thank him very much for giving me the opportunity that not many else did. So yeah, it's quite funny and amazing what you can do when people put their faith in you and their trust in you to achieve stuff, because then you give them 100% and you can achieve great things. But yeah, he's a nice guy, and yeah, in some ways I would agree that I'm exceptional. I've helped him a lot. He's helped me a lot. World champion is a bit of a push, but I'm definitely one of the fastest there is. Would I ever consider becoming a fan of tennis? Look, I'm not a massive fan of like any sports, in the sense I don't religiously watch any sports, but I appreciate what those guys do, guys and girls actually, because yeah, the women players are amazing as well, and it's a very different style of playing. But yeah, their concentration and the focus that they have. Like, I look at sports very differently. Golf as well. Again, I'm not great at golf, and I don't play it very often, but the concentration and the appreciation I have for people who are just gods at their sport, it's impressive. So yeah, Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, Medvedev, I can never pronounce, I think that's correct. And the other one, the even harder one to pronounce, is it Sipsistvis? I can't say it. And I even like, in a certain way, I like Kyrgios because he's just a different character. He's an interesting one and makes it entertaining. So yeah, I do watch their highlights, but I can never religiously watch it. Yeah, whole thing about sausage curbs in 2021, where the GPA kind of hinted and threatened to strike. Yeah, I mean, we've been kicking off for that for ages in F3 and F2, because our cars run lower at lower speeds than F1, because F1 comes up so much because of the downforce that they have. When they get to the high speed corners, they decrease. And we were really affected by those sausage curves, really affected by the stupid stuff they put on the exits, and the track limits and all of this. So yeah, we were not a big fan, but of course we're not F1, so we don't get the coverage that they do. But yeah, we it's just stupid decisions by people who don't always drive the cars. Obviously there is a lot of influence, but just unnecessary choices in some ways, and in some ways there's a lot of thought that goes behind them. So you have to balance out what the reasons, and you have to sometimes even get it explained to everyone why these decisions are made, because you do learn some things that you didn't think about in the first place. What was that infamous 2015 F3 race at Monza like? Just, you put 36 drivers on the grid at Monza, just carnage is going to happen. It's just the way it goes. It's like when we race at Nashville with IndyCar, you can't do much about it. Too many cars, too many guys competing, and low downforce means you can follow closer. So there's more chance to make mistakes with more overtakes. Yeah, so I don't know. It was quite funny. We all got slaughtered by the FIA very late one evening and had to stay and all of this, and yeah, whatever. I mean, it was funny. Yeah, look, we had some good times. That was a bad weekend for F3, but also at the same time, look, it's negative, but it highlighted some things in the series, positive and negative. It was entertaining in a certain way, maybe a bit dangerous, but whatever. Do I prefer driving with oversteer or understeer? Normally oversteer on a lighter car, but sometimes with these heavier cars you have to run with a bit of understeer. It's not easy to kind of work with that oversteer. Like F1, you have to have understeer, but you limit the amount of understeer. Can we see a live stream of you and Marcus one day? Probably not. He's not a big fan of the live streaming stuff. We're proud of you. Thank you very much. Thank you. you've been doing a solid job with the Hunkers Hollinger guys, so I have no doubt that you probably pushed that team quite far. I do try my best, but they do listen to me, and I do listen to them. So we're making ground. Yeah. No, thank you very much, everyone. What would you want in a new IndyCar? I'm not a big fan of hybrids. I don't think that's the way to go. Obviously, from a global sense, you kind of have to go. But the car needs to be a bit lighter. It needs to be a bit lighter, a bit freer. That way you can add more downforce and you don't have to risk running power steering, because we're very close to having to run power steering. Like, it's ridiculously tough for some teams as well, the way they run the cars. But yeah, it is what it is. Otherwise, it's quite alright. You know, I'd love for it to be appreciated in some ways a bit more. I think we need to do a bit more work on that side as well. But you know, everything's a work in progress. You probably can't say, but there were rumours of being IndyCar teams looking to sign you, which for me is pretty clear indication I'm highly rated in the paddock. Yes, I mean, obviously that there is always interest in, you know, that side of things. But at the end of the day, like I'd committed to doing the job I was doing, and you know, I love the people I work around, and I think there's you also have time in what you're doing. So even if there's potential opportunities, you have to be patient, you have to learn, you have to appreciate people who give you the opportunity. And then at some stage, you know, results have got to come as well. But I think if people, my attitude to it now is, people believe I already have that talent, nothing's going to change. I'm only going to get better and better. So I'm always going to have, those opportunities might change, but I'm always going to have one or two or three of those opportunities in a certain way. So yeah, it's nice to know that I'm looked at. But of course, at the end of the day, I'm, you know, working with what I've got. If all F1 drivers are driving the exact same car, and this car somewhat suits everyone, what's the gap from the fastest to the slowest? Oh fuck, I can't really answer that. I would say you've got to look at teammates compared to teammates. So whatever the biggest gap between teammates is right now, which I think is maybe 5 or 6 tenths, that is the gap between the fastest and the slowest, in my opinion. Maybe slightly extended either end, but everyone would be within a second in F1. In IndyCar, it's hard to say. I would say 7 tenths in IndyCar as well. It's super close. Not curious. Don't do that to me. Look, you know, I look at life in a very different way. Look, there are a lot of people that people don't like or don't respect, and you know, people make mistakes and say stuff, do stuff, but at the end of the day, if you always look and listen to everyone that does things right or is the best, you never learn anything from people who've made mistakes. And like, you know, of course there are extents of this where maybe you shouldn't listen at all, but I always love to hear both sides of an argument, because at the end of the day, everyone's right whether they're wrong. So if someone's wrong, there is a reason why they believe that, and why maybe you should listen to it. So in a certain way with like Kyrgios, it's a bit of a different way of talking to that. But yeah, he's very, should we say, overexcited, over-aggressive, doing some stupid shit. But again, if you don't like what he's doing, pay attention to it and never do it. Learn from it and get the best out of that situation that you don't respect someone for in a certain way. But in other sides, you know, he is obviously a very talented player, does things in a certain way outside of the rule book, maybe bends the rule book a bit. But if anything, I can respect him for being very honest. Yeah, I look at it that way. I even if someone talks yeah. But yeah, I do respect everyone's decisions on all of that. Um, yeah. I don't know if I should hate you or say thank you. I watched an F2 race in 2009 on chance, and then I started pointing you. So I started watching all the feeder series, and you started with endurance, and I started following it, and then IndyCar. Yeah, I'm very sorry, but at least you found your passion a little bit through me, whether or not that was my fault or not. Yeah, this dude trying to send me fake cheers. Thank you. I appreciate the commitment. But yeah, unfortunately not real. If you got the shot, would you attempt the Indy 500, Coke 600 double? And have you ever considered going for the Motorsports Triple Crown? Yeah, one day I'll do it. I've got a bit of time for that. Yes. How do the cooling vests you wear in the car work? Are you plugged into a water pump? Has it ever failed on you? Yes, it's failed once. It's a little box. It's like an air conditioning unit, which has like small water pipes that come to something here, which is a little plug. I had this vest, which on the front and the back has loads of little veins, shall we say, full of cooled water, and I have to just plug it in. There's a little hole through my suit where I plug it in, and and it cools me down. Like, you don't notice it too much, but you notice it if it's not there, if you know what I mean. It gets very hot. I would really enjoy if Indy would come to Europe. I would too. Why have I stressed you out? What's there to stress about? Here's because I'm not just talking about curious tennis. Yeah, I heard one or two things outside of that, and I don't condone any of that behavior or anything. I'm just talking from someone's tennis. I don't know people's personal lives. So yeah, if you understand what I mean on that side. But yeah, of course, yeah, people's personal lives and stuff, I can't prove anything. But you know, at the same time, if there's anything on that side that is obviously harming someone else, or you know, harming people, I don't agree with it. But outside of that, from just a sports perspective, because that's what I know and love, I appreciate everyone's perspectives on stuff, and also, you know, on life. You know, if someone tells me I'm an idiot, I want to know why, and I respect that they think I'm an idiot, because there's probably a reason they think I'm an idiot. But you know, you have to learn, instead of reacting hurt by all this stuff. You have to look at it and go, why does that person think that about me? I need to understand it and change that in my behavior. So yeah, I you know, it's tough, but that's my kind of look on things. But yes, I do know one thing outside of the tennis, which yeah, I don't agree with. But of course, I don't know the full story. I wasn't there, and to be honest, no one is there. But yeah, I'll stop on that. No, I don't know what it means to be a person's yellow. I don't know what that means. Can drivers go to random restaurant for meals, or is it all planned and managed? Yeah, we're like normal people. No, we are normal people. I mean, I was just on my own at lunch, sitting up at the bar in a little cafe. Yeah, it's very normal. In Italy, like, obviously they kind of knew who we were, but we're still having like normal meals, especially here. I mean, how do you feel about people like Tictum going into a series as a rookie and saying they're one of the best against champions, and then not living up to their own hype? I don't necessarily agree with that, like your specific statement on that, because at the end of the day, like, this is the other thing with F1, everyone's competitive. Like, this isn't, as much as it's for everyone's entertainment as fans, we're there to win. Like, you know, I go into a race weekend not believing I can win, but you have to understand that you can't think that you're worse than anyone else. That's not, you also can't go through life. you have to respect everyone, but you can't go through life thinking that you're not good at stuff. It doesn't work like that. So look, Dan, I've known Dan for many, many years, and he is very, very talented in a few ways. Driving one of them, he's very fast, very raw on that side. He's quite aggressive. I would argue, and he probably knows this, that sometimes is a bit short tempered. And in a certain way, maybe comes across on the arrogant side, but like I've known Dan since the beginning like that, and that's always been Dan. And you can either look at him and go, "Oh, that's him," or you can go, I respect that he thinks he can do that. I think Dan's very, very fast. Obviously, everyone can always improve, but you have to put yourself in this perspective that you can do that one day. Like I look at these indie guys, and there are a lot of guys that I respect, but you put me head to head in the car, I've got to believe I can beat them, and I do. If one day I'm going to go into one of the leading championship teams, and I'm going to have to beat the guy next to me. So I don't think there's, other than experience, there's no difference between me now and me then. You've got to beat them. So yeah, look, not living up to their own hype. It's either a case of learning, experience, mistakes, or they're overconfident in themselves, and sometimes that's a lesson in its own way. But look, especially on the F1 side, you're under a lot of pressure from the media, from fan bases, from your team. You've got 900 people back at the factory, millions behind you and that other guy to be driving. If you're lacking in confidence, how do you sell yourself? You're always trying to be the best. It's no good. It's no good having no confidence. I mean, it's like you go into a job interview and they ask, why should we hire you? And you say, oh, look, I'm not the best here. I think he might be better than me. No, you go in there and say, well, because I'm good. I'm good at what I do. And, you've got to have that confidence. I'm not going to hire someone who comes in and goes, no. Whereas you're more likely going to hire someone who goes, oh yeah, like I really believe in myself here. I've got excellent skills here. Look, that's the way it goes. That's how life goes. So yeah, that's my little motivational side. Yeah. So back to your point. But yeah, that's my that's my POV on life and the situation. I can't speak specifically about him or whatever, but I'm on this tennis playing. I'm a fan because it's different, or I'm at least interested in watching him. It's unbelievable how many times I've heard of drivers calling this failed. Look, there's a lot of things to do with voltages and all of that, where if it dips below a certain point, it can fail. And yeah, when it fails, it's even worse than not having it in the first place. I'm excited for 100 Days to Indy. I don't think I'm going to appear on it. They haven't recorded a single thing of me yet. That's their loss. Just going to make it less entertaining for anyone who's a fan of me, but, whatever. They might still come. There's still a few months before Indy. Best and worst American chain restaurant? I don't know. I haven't tried all of them. I like a few of them, though. I can't really. Yeah. Are there any types of cars that aren't race cars you're more inclined to, like JDM, Euro Muscle, American Muscle? Look, I love a 60s Mustang. A friend of mine bought this 70s Porsche off of a deceased family member, which they'd had almost from new. And there's like childhood photos of him and his cousins with it. And he kept the outside the same and redid everything, kept the original motor, original gearbox and everything for another day, but faster engine, faster gearbox, better suspension, it's better brakes, all of this. It's lovely. I'd love to get an old Porsche and do the same, kind of keep everything standard, of course. I like JDM cars. I don't know if that's the first thing I'd get. I think if I could buy a supercar right now, I'd buy a Porsche GT3 manual. I love that car. Um, yeah, amazing car. But the older stuff, yeah, I like the '60s Mustang. I love Caterhams. Maybe an old Mini as well, the little one. I had one of those. I had a rallycross version when I was like 13, to learn to kind of drive in and drift around some fields, which was quite nice. Uh, yeah. Are drivers getting drug tested all the time? Is there a risk you might accidentally get something from some random food? Yeah, look, from the karting days, we've been drug tested. It's completely random. I mean, some guys have had it where they haven't been tested for years. I've had it where I've been tested twice, 3 times a year at random times. At first, I always worried about that sort of stuff because I've read so many things of how easily it is to get contaminated. That you can't prevent, like with meat and stuff. It's always possible to get something that's just wrong. Doesn't happen regularly at all, but it's there's always a chance. Um, the only thing is like what we're very careful of, and what a lot of athletes are, is buying fitness products off the shelf, because they're not batch tested. They might have other stuff. You have to be very careful. So I rarely buy any nutritional stuff that is not batch tested or looked at, because we're under the same thing that the Olympics are under, cycling, tennis, all of that. So anything, doesn't matter if it's not performance enhancing, anything. I have asthma and it's very mild, so I rarely use my inhaler. But I believe, for example, if I took 16 puffs of my inhaler within a 24-hour window, that would put you over the limit of what is contained within that inhaler. Yeah, things like that. That sort of stuff you have to be careful of. And I think that's because some cyclist maybe was taking too many puffs and pushing the limits on that side. But that's it on that side. But yeah, I was worried, but now like I can only do what I can do, and so far I've been tested all the time, and nothing has ever come up. And for a lot of people, that's the same thing. So I stopped worrying on that side and knew the thing that I was doing was working well in terms of avoiding any off-the-shelf nutritional stuff, that sort of stuff. Can you really look past someone's personality views just because of their sporting achievements? Okay, highlighting Nelson in that regard. The endless discussion of separating the art from the artist, I guess. Yes and no. Look, I don't... these are very sensitive topics, and I really don't agree with people who have those kind of views. And whether it's from a systemic issue, whether it's a personal issue, it's not, you can't condone that shit. And I don't respect it at all. Of course, there are things that outside of that, whether it's a world championship or whatever, you can go, okay, fair play. But yeah, there are things that are just wrong. And that was the thing that I was talking about, at the extent of which it goes, where you can ignore someone's point of view for it, which is where I do kind of draw the line. But instead of obsessively hating that person, I just block it out, and that's my lesson on, for example, like it's obviously, we're taught from such a young age anyway nowadays how wrong all of that stuff is, and it's existentially wrong. And on that side, that reinforces. In terms of a certain way, like the response to his specific not allegations, because obviously he did it. His specific situation and what he said, the response from the community is like is exactly right. So that's a lesson for people that how wrong what he said and did is. So you have to look at that and go, you can't do that. And for anyone who thinks that's okay to be able to do that, let the response show that that's just wrong. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. But yes, there is an extent where I don't look past it, but I just ignore that. I ignore him. So I hope that makes sense. Hello, Max. Welcome. We're having a very deep discussion. Welcome everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm glad he's found me. What else? I'm sorry, I'm a bit behind on the questions, but I'm going through it. So welcome everyone. Where do we get to? I'd be worried if a driver sat there and said they don't believe they could be a world champion one day. Exactly. Got to say you have the most even-keeled approach to your own racing career and your view of others than almost any other driver I've heard speak. It's very cool. Welcome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do like to, talk from all sides of everything, and I try and be honest with everyone in a certain sense. That's fair, really. When he has a good day, he's really good at playing tennis, so I do get that. Fair enough. This is only partially relating to this, but at my job interview to a restaurant, I literally told my boss I've been messing up baking stuff and I lost confidence, but they still hired me. Props very different to a sports perspective, but still. Yeah, look, it depends who you're talking to. I've got to say a majority of people love confidence, but of course everyone comes in with confidence. But if you're able to admit your mistakes and look at yourself and get a person who understands people who look at the mistakes and want to improve on it, I also respect that. And I look at myself and see the mistakes that I've made and go, you can't do that again. You need to improve on it. And I know where my weaknesses are. So at the same time of being confident, I'm sure there were lots of things that you did say you had skills at and you had confidence at. And I would expect you to say that you've messed up. I mean, a wise man once said, this is my dad from my side, when he was speaking to younger people and hiring people out of college or university. This was in a finance perspective as well, because that was the area he was in. But everyone on that side would always come in and go, this is all our wins. This is my portfolio. Look how great it is. Look how amazing it is. And he never respected someone like that, because it's great. They won a lot. But in a job like that, you need to be able to lose, and you need to be able to understand and move on from losing. And he's like, unless you're going to show me your losses and your lessons, I don't care. So it's about that thing of lessons on that side. So I look at it that side. Anyway, Justin Mark says he's got a plan for the next Project 91 race. Are you allowed to confirm it, or do you have to wait? Look, I'd love to do a NASCAR race, but I'm not doing a NASCAR race anytime soon, that's for sure. Other drivers I spend time with, Anam is here. Who else do I see? Rosenquist lives like 30 meters that way. Marcus and a lot of others live 5 minutes west. Have I been to Cracker Barrel yet? No, I do not. Even if you don't believe you can be a champion, you can't admit that. One day you say that. Once you say that, everyone knows they can push and you'll yield. Or they know that you've lost the mental battle with yourself. To be a person's yellow is to be someone who has helped that person through hard times, even when you don't know it, and you are that person for me. I'm sorry, I'm a little cheesy today. Thank you very much. No, I appreciate that. It's nice to know I've helped some people in this day and age, even if I'm just a little silly driver sometimes. Porsche GT. I really need to catch up with these messages. I'm sorry. Porsche GT3 is a solid shout. I think I'd go for a Porsche GT2 RS. That Porsche is unbelievable in person. Yeah, I mean, but the GT2 RS is like 2 times the price. Almost. It's going down in price on the resale value, but yeah, I can't afford that yet. I like the naturally aspirated as well. It just sounds so good. JDM wise, probably a Toyota Chaser or one of those old sedans. I love like the R32 Skyline. R34 amazing, but I can't afford one. R32 I'd get. What was the hardest thing for you switching from F2 to IndyCar? Just the pace of the races, in the sense like you're pushing 100% of the time all the time with those tyres. Anything can happen in the races. Physicality of it is incredible. It's double the length of F2. You've got so many pit stops, so many things to go wrong or right. You just need to relax. Do performance drugs help at all with racing? Is it a thing in a racing community at all? Personally, it's not a thing. I don't know anyone who is, to be fair, even thought about it being a thing. I don't personally see what could be done at all to help that. Like, for example, maybe the closest is something like Adderall that people take for ADD or ADHD to help them focus. I mean, I could argue that could work, but you have to be so aware of everything that maybe that isn't the case at all. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and if you're taking 16 puffs of your inhaler in 24 hours, yeah, you should probably go see someone. You're going to have an issue. Are there any possible exemptions, like having an asthma attack or whatever reason, or are you done for? The problem with that is there is an exemption, but only after. So you have to go to hospital, for example, and the doctor has to say that there was no other option. Basically, we had to give you this drug or had to do that to fix you. And then that has to be sent to the FIA Court of Appeals, FIA Doctors Review Panel, and they have to then independently review that and decide if that was the correct thing to do for you or not. So you can still be stuffed afterwards if the doctor made the right or wrong decision, but at least you're alive, I guess. So yeah, that's the way it kind of goes. And that's the thing, like, I guess, yeah, I don't know many people in that situation, but yeah, I don't want to even be in that situation personally. I have a question. What is your thoughts on LMP3 class in a series like IMSA? Look, I don't know. I don't like the LMP3 personally because it's too close to the GT, and if you've got a very slow driver in LMP3, it can be a pain in the ass to overtake in GTs. So yeah, that's just the difficult side, and I don't think you should be having massively professional guys in much faster cars with guys who really have minimal experience in racing. That's not ideal, but that's life. So yeah, I don't know what they'll do on that side. IndyCar is on this weekend too, isn't it? Texas, yes, ovals. We'll certainly be having a big nap after. Yeah, I mean F3, F2, F1, and IndyCar. That's intense. Callum showing us why he's a great person to be a fan of. If you want to come and watch IndyCar, please do come. Otherwise, you got me on the streams maybe once a week, maybe less, maybe more. Who knows? Who are the best drivers you raced who had to stop because of the lack of money? Nicholas Nielsen stopped for a while. He is now in the Ferrari hypercar. He was a great driver in karting. There was lots of guys with a lot of natural talent. I'm just trying to think. It's almost though so. A lot of them stopped so early on that it's hard to know if they'd be great or not because they kind of made that decision at a certain point. I can't answer that specifically, but Nicholas was one that almost stopped, and I know he's a good driver. Sleepers for the week. I'm waiting to see you on that podium. Just got a dive bomb. Take out the top 5 first. Corner in easy. I'll get someone else to dive bomb for me. But yeah, I think I'll get a podium this year for sure. Little gift shop at Cracker Barrel. I have so much random stuff from going to Cracker Barrel as high school. Thoughts on the Aston Martin Valkyrie, and will we see you in it at Le Mans? I have no relation to Aston Martin at all at the moment. I think it's a great car, good looking, aggressive. That is V12 as well. Yeah, sounds amazing, and a lot of downforce. Looks cool. Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to race Le Mans again, but we'll have to see. I went grocery shopping and came back, and you're still here. Yeah, I don't know how much longer I'll be because I need to call it a day at some point. I was told to come here and learn to be a racing driver. Yes, welcome. We are giving lessons I'm giving lessons, I guess. Physics lessons. Any specific foods you look towards Any specific foods you look forward? Oh, I can't speak. Forwards to eating this weekend in Texas. On the race days, I normally have chicken and pasta, chicken and rice, salmon and pasta, salmon and rice. Either. I keep it simple. A little bit of vegetable on the side. Lovely. Really wish I pulled up to St. Pete. There's always next year. Yeah, I think we'll be racing there for a while. I think they confirmed it as well. Have you ever gotten an opportunity to drive Australian V8 Supercar Series? No, I never did, unfortunately. Talented at hitting curbs? Yes, you might be, James. By curbs, I mean roadside curbs, and they wreck tyres. As long as you don't destroy it, you just damage the rim, that's okay. I'll forgive you for that. If you had the choice to be either a vampire or a werewolf, what would you pick? Probably a vampire. I think it's a bit more normal. Yeah, I don't know on that side. Depends what comes with it. I'm going to watch Australia at midnight after a night out. This is going to be an experience. Yeah, that sounds good. Talking of F2, it's insane, incredible that JMC is an F2 after the journey he's had. It's insane that number one, he's still alive. It's insane number two that he's walking. It's insane number three that he jumped back in a car, and it's insane that he's an F2 now after all of it. So respect to the man. He's a lovely guy. Has battled very, very, very hard in ways you wouldn't know as well to come back. So respect to him. Physically and mentally. Are you better at karting now than you were during your active karting career? Because you obviously had less time to go karting, but you have more racing experience. I was better at karting back then than I am now. 100%. I was a little karting god at the time. And I get back in a kart now and I'm like, Jesus, how was I so good at this? I suck now. Do you have to know some specific people very young to have a chance to make F1 or Indy? Is connection super important? Yes, for F1, yeah, 100%. You have to be in the right place at the right time with the right people around you, right money, right backing, right opportunities, sponsors, politics, nationality, everything. Indy less so. I mean, I did that without. I got to Indy without any connections, but of course, I'd obviously kind of got established enough maybe for that to happen through F1. I don't know. And to be fair, I didn't really have that many connections to F1. I think the first avenue I got was Ollie Oakes, and I were. He was running the team that I was in karting, and it was just me at the time, so it was me and him. And he'd raced GP3, F3 in the Red Bull Junior team, so he knew Helmut Marko. And then towards the end of my karting career, I got in touch with Red Bull, and then I was in the Red Bull Junior team, and then it just went from there, basically. So yeah, I obviously built some connections, but obviously not enough to get into F1. So yeah. What's for dinner? Food? I don't know. Pasta, probably. Random question, but have you tried doing creative stuff like photography and graphic design for fun? I could give it a go. I have a little camera here that we use for the Screaming Meal stuff. I'm not really... That's not my specialty. The creative stuff is not my specialty. I don't have a good eye for that. So I can try. Definitely not the graphic design side. But photography, maybe I could give it a go. But I'm good at driving, so I just try that. I do want to try the vlogs, but it's just such a hard thing to commit to. Have I got to start a JPEG? Is that on the cards now? Maybe I should do it. Did you ever have anything to do with a Ferrari hypercar? No, I had nothing to do with a Ferrari hypercar. The only thing I would say is obviously doing the GTs was a build up to potentially do the hypercar. So that's kind of all I can say on that. No, I didn't have any direct involvement with it, but I had direct involvement with everyone who is now working on that side. So you can argue, I guess. You only started watching IndyCar because of me. Lovely. Oh, well, thank you. And sorry for keeping you up at nights, I guess. Are we on random questions? What would your life taste like if it were to have a taste? I don't know, pretty bland. I mean, the racing's cool, so maybe that's a sweet taste, but otherwise it's pretty boring. Just, like an apple or something. Uh, yep, JMC is a trooper. What is your favorite helmet that you've used and you're able to show? I mean, my favorite design is this one. I think this was great. I almost destroyed my laptop. Is this one? Oh, I have gloves in here. Yeah. As you can see, like, yeah, if I can highlight here, that's the Alpha logo. In there, I thought the colors were great. Shame I didn't get to use it much. That's probably my favorite in terms. Hang on, I don't know if you can hear me. That's probably my favorite in terms of like the colors and the designs that I got to play with. But I like keeping my design the same. I think 2019 was the first time I switched over to this kind of design. Where I was running with this. The only thing I don't like about IndyCar is we can't run the spoilers, and I think they look a lot better on helmets. But yeah, that when I changed over to that 2019 design, I loved it. So, yeah, well, the FDA helmet at K1. I don't like wearing the balaclavas and then a helmet that doesn't fit me and all of this stuff. It only takes some knob to take you out, and then you hit your head on something, and if you're not protected enough, it can hurt. Yeah, any sport in life, I mean, you need connections in life. That's how people get jump starts, I guess. It's a bit either nepotistic, or I don't know if that's even a word, but yeah, you need to be able to work at it. I did deserve a shot. You can argue that, but I'm following my own path. Just an all-round insane person. Yes, he is, but in a good way. Do the drivers practice the experience of being extracted from a car like the safety teams do, other than being timed out? Not in IndyCar, no. But in F2, F3, F1, they do make them do it occasionally to give each track. Actually, each track does it with one car from any random team each weekend in F3, F2, F1 to give them experience of it in each series. So the drivers can either be in there or you put a mechanic in your suit, and they do it that way, and it's not really a pleasant experience. So I'm not a big fan of doing it. Got any tips for learning to drive a normal car? Clutch control. Go somewhere quiet, open, just learn with the clutch. So don't use any throttle. Just learn and feel with the clutch. And some cars are very easy to stall without throttle, but they're probably the best to learn in. So you learn the bike point and the feeling, and then you get into shifting gears. You don't even need to go fast. Just spend 15 minutes just learning the clutch, and then as soon as you get clutch control, that makes life a lot easier. And then it's about relaxing when you're on the real roads, because it's a bit stressful. There's a lot of things going on, and you've got to pay attention. So if you can get the clutch control side, the braking and throttle and gear changes, that takes some stress away from the rest, because it's hard enough learning to abide by the rules of the road and all the other silly people on the roads. Sorry if that was asked. I'm very in and out. Will there be a side pod this week? No, there will not be, because Marcus is not in this country. It's usually easier to just hire someone to learn vlogging. I feel like I have a gimbal for that sort of stuff, but I just haven't tried. Yeah, it is, but unless I find some like college students or uni students that want to do it, it's just super expensive, and I'm not really in the position to start doing that. I don't mind investing a little bit, but it's just finding the right people and the right time to do it, and getting the right things, because it's like, I don't mind giving someone the chance to do it who might be at a lower price, but anyone with experience, just it's so much, and rightfully so, but I can't always I can't do it, if you know what I mean. And I tried to do a bit myself, but I just forgot and didn't continue doing it, so then it's like a third of the video or whatever. Still doing my photography work, and that I started as soon as this live started, and I've nearly finished. Taking me twice as long because I've been okay, sorry, I do apologise. Which IndyCar driver could you beat in a fight? Probably quite. I know I look small and built like a twig, but I can fight pretty well, especially on the ground. Punching and stuff's not my favourite thing to do. But yeah, if it's ground fighting, a few of them. Wrestling, jiu-jitsu, all of that. Is not sure if it's been asked, but are you excited to do the ovals this year in IndyCar? I did the ovals last year. Do you design the helmet or leave it all to the designer? I kind of designed that one. Gianluca sent me a design, and then I sent it to the designer and said I want this, this, and this. And then I kind of just leave it up to them. I say kind of what colours I want to do, and I don't really fuss too much. The pipe it attaches to an air thing in the car, so you get some fresh air because we have the aero screen. If you could choose your number, what would you choose? Either 18, 7, or 53. First gear grinding is great. Yeah, don't do that. And don't shift from instead of going from third into fourth, don't go third to second. You'll break something. Do you find slow city driving more stressful than 300 kilometers an hour on track? Yeah, when there's a load of muppets around you, that's very stressful. Yeah, I know how to drive at 300 kilometers an hour. I know how to drive at 50 miles an hour. But if someone's swerving in and out of lanes and, doing stuff that you don't expect, that's not always easy. Marcus is the one not doing the circles, the ovals. Would you rather have road cars or race cars banned in the US? I don't know. There's a lot of road cars in the US. I think they should invest in more trains, personally. Yeah. Do you always have to start in first gear, or sometimes you start in a higher degree? In a road car, you could start in second in some cars. In F1, in the wet, they start in second gear. In IndyCar, we need to start in first, otherwise you just stall. Why is it so hard to do the circles, the ovals? Because the car becomes so finely tuned to something that, it's quite hard to comprehend, and then it's a completely different style of racing. You're having to anticipate everything, stay out of the dirty air, lift, deal with tyre degradation, fuel saving, and people also trying to overtake you or not overtake you, and it's like a bit of a pack, and you have to get the timing right. Driving around on your own is pretty easy, I have to say. Why has Max's messages been deleted? Start with TikTok vlogs. Yeah, maybe I could do that. I have mastered the whole Twitch thing. I just take my time with you people, and then it encourages you guys to stay. And I did get close to catching up, and then it went. If you could nab a design off another indie driver, whose would you choose? I don't know. I don't even think about that. I'm sorry, I can't answer that. Race driver wants no cars, more trains. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. We're going, 200 laps of going around a very large roundabout, yeah. It is, but sometimes it's never enough. As I found out in the Indy 500 last year. Now that I've caught up, I think. I do have a YouTube channel, by the way. It is Callum or Ilott. So, maybe I should try and do something. Maybe I will do something. Maybe I'll put something out for Texas and for Long Beach. You ignored my question twice. Well, I did answer definitely one of your questions, so don't start. Do drivers go out and get wasted regularly? No, we don't go out and get wasted regularly. There are some that enjoy parties. But yeah, you're allowed to live your life. As long as it doesn't inhibit or obstruct your racing life, you're good to go. Minecraft kid, what was it? The Piglet guy or whatever. Okay, fair, you answered about 100 of my questions. Right, I'm going. My eyes are starting to get tired. Clem and James analysis. What is their analysis? What have they said? Good luck returning left at ridiculous high speed. Thank you. All the best. Have amazing night's sleep, everyone, because it's quite late back in Europe. Au revoir. Bonne nuit. Uh, yeah. Good night. Bye, 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 bye.